It's the Friday News Roundup. We're talking about how District Attorney Larry Krasner has been holding town halls to prep for what he says could be a Trump military invasion. Plus, Governor Josh Shapiro gets cheers and jeers for condemning political violence. And a new magical space opens on the Parkway. It's Friday, September 19th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week at the Filler Club is CityCast Philly executive producer Matt Katz. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Trenae, what's up?
Nothing much. Lots to go
Nothing
over.
much.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's
Before
a lot.
we went on the air, you're like, there's so much.
I know.
There's so much. Maybe I shouldn't have asked what's up. Maybe we should just get right into it.
Yeah. All right. This week, District Attorney Larry Krasner held these town hall tours, so to speak, around the city. And he's calling them the Be the Light, Bring the Light, where basically he's meeting with Philadelphians as a form of preparation to talk about ideas on how to push back in the event that President Trump or the Trump administration plans to put National Guard troops in the city. So we've been kind of talking about this all summer about how President Trump has been wanting to send troops to major U.S. cities. And what he says is like an effort to combat crime. Mm-hmm. But we know that crime has been going down in a lot of major U.S. cities, including ours here in Philly.
Yeah.
So I want to play a clip of what Krasner said at his first town hall on Tuesday at Girard College.
This is a city that is setting historic lows in various categories of crime, that is also setting historic lows in terms of incarceration. And yet we find ourselves in a position where certain people want to claim a crime emergency that is completely false. And they want to do it as an excuse to invade, simply put, to invade.
I do want to point out, though, Matt, that there hasn't been any immediate evidence that President Trump is specifically targeting Philly. But this is all kind of a preparation.
Yeah, and we've seen in the past that Trump could issue some sort of statement on his social media channel, Truth Social, and say Philly is a cesspool of violence. We're going to activate the National Guard and send them in tomorrow. And it could happen pretty quickly. So I think part of the idea is Krasner is getting out there and saying, this is what you should do if this happens. And some of the advice that I saw that he was giving at town halls is to film any federal troop movements in the city in case they violate people's civil rights.
He said, record everything.
Yeah.
I think, it was basically he wants the truth to be shown about what could happen in that event. Council members Jamie Gauthier, who represents West Philly and Southwest, and council member at large Kendra Brooks was also at the first town hall. And they also talked about just the last time that we had federal troops in the city was during the racial justice protests of 2020 and how traumatizing and impactful that was to see such a presence like that in our city. And Brooks introduced a resolution in council this week to condemn Trump's use of the National Guard.
Now, we don't expect that resolution will necessarily have any impact. And we don't know if, Krasner's town hall meetings will have any impact. I can't imagine it scares Trump off if he does want to send troops in. The other political backdrop to this is that Krasner is running for another term as district attorney. He's up for re-election in less than 2 months. This does get him on Channel 6, Channel 10, Channel 3 every night when he does these town hall meetings. Exactly, when he does these town hall meetings. So it is a nice way of getting in the news and appealing to Philadelphians about something that they will broadly agree with, that the military shouldn't be busting people for smoking weed on their stoop. And as a reminder, he is running against Pat Dugan, who he defeated in the Democratic primary. Pat Dugan has now switched sides. He's running in the general election as a Republican.
Right.
So he's not necessarily a pro-Trump guy, Dugan, but Krasner has certainly tried to frame him in that way. So that's a little bit of the politics going on behind the scenes to Krasner's town hall meetings.
And Krasner said that has nothing to do with what these town halls are all about.
But it's hard to separate, politics when politicians are doing stuff publicly, right? So also in line with this week, and speaking of pushback against Trump, Governor Josh Shapiro, likely possible 2028 Democratic presidential candidate, he made national headlines this week with a speech that he gave about political violence. And this is, of course, in the wake of the killing of MAGA political commentator Charlie Kirk. The governor's office sent links to news stories about his speech, and it appeared, it was mentioned, it was highlighted, it was centered in 30 news outlets from CNN to the New York Times. So what was the speech all about? What was the big deal? I listened to it twice. A couple of things I found really interesting. First, he was introduced by former Republican Governor Tom Corbett. So that was a symbolic display of bipartisanship. Some telling symbolism there. As a side note, Corbett, a few hours later, endorsed Shapiro's possible Republican opponent for governor, Stacey Garrity. So that's
a whole nother
thing. But it is interesting that Corbett did introduce Shapiro and say, clearly he disagrees with him politically, but he also, sees him as they described each other as friends. So that was
a good moment.
For sure. And then Shapiro begins his speech by telling a story about how, as we know, would-be assassin set his governor's mansion on fire back in April, carried a hammer that he allegedly intended to use to kill Shapiro. This, again, is an attack on a Democrat. We just saw an attack on a Republican. So he's trying to make the case that political violence of all stripes, which it might exist in every corner of the political sphere, is inappropriate and never okay in America. Shapiro talked about how the attack on his mansion happened during Passover, the Jewish holiday, and everybody in his family was okay, but the attack has left emotional scars on him and his 4 kids. And then he told this pretty touching story about how the local fire department in Harrisburg sent him a note after the arson attack. And the 82-year-old Christian chaplain included a verse from the Bible in the note that they left for Shapiro. And the verse was, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you." And that's the very same verse that Shapiro, who is Jewish, says to his children every night. So I found this bit quite moving. Here's 90 seconds of it.
I wept when I read that prayer that he wrote. I called Lori over, and we embraced this 82-year-old chaplain. It was a prayer, of course, of comfort, a prayer to make sure that we are watched over by God, and a prayer known to me as the priestly blessing. What you may not know, and what Chaplain Wordle certainly did not know, is that it's also the prayer I recite over our 4 children nightly. Simech Elohim k'Ephraim v'hi Menashe, v'rech v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. I put my hands on my children's head when I say that each night. Those are words of healing, and they're words of hopefulness to me. And they are also words that again remind us of our shared humanity. Chaplain Wordle and I could not be more different in life. Different generations, different walks of life. Heck, we probably vote for different people come election time. Yet we were bound by that same portion of Scripture, a portion of hopefulness and healing and protection. It's a recognition that there is more that binds us together than divides us as Americans, no matter what those who stoke division would want to have us believe.
That Christian verse is Numbers 6, verses 24 to 26. That's nice to see different religions and like different political affiliations come together in this way, in this moment.
Yeah, and in this week, I mean, my God. Shapiro brought up the shooting of Donald Trump, which happened in Pennsylvania over the summer. He brought up the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO, who was actually the alleged shooter, was caught in Pennsylvania. He brought up the assassination of a Democratic state legislator and her husband in Minnesota. But, politics was not far behind after this speech was made. His expected opponent in the gubernatorial election, Stacey Garrity, she's the state treasurer. She is running next year against Shapiro. she might have to face a Republican primary, but, she's acting as the candidate at the moment. She said that the assassination of Charlie Kirk is a moment for Americans to come together and honor Charlie's deep devotion to the founding values of our nation, freedom of speech and free exchange of ideas. It's not another opportunity for Shapiro to play politics and polish his image. So she said that Shapiro's speech calling for an end to political violence was just playing politics.
When a politician says that, what do you want them to do?
Yeah.
Like,
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And also, it's just things have to slow down. Like, the energy is hot right now.
Oh, my goodness.
We need to come together.
Totally.
Right?
There was so much doxing going on and going after people for what they said or didn't say in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. So an earth and environmental science professor at Penn, this guy Michael Mann, he tweeted about Kirk after the killing. He reposted a message that called Kirk the head of Trump's Hitler Youth. After that, our Republican Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick called on Penn to take immediate, decisive action against the professor, presumably to fire him. And this came as people around the country are being punished, are losing their jobs for allegedly disparaging Kirk, who was ironically said to be a champion of free speech. So did you hear about this little company called Fresh Prince in West Philly?
Prince as printing out a piece of paper or something.
Not the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
So they were falsely put on a website called Charlie's Murderers, which was intended to identify and dox anybody who was celebrating Kirk's death. The website claimed that a Philadelphia woman who worked at Fresh Prince had disparaged Kirk. Turned out to be totally false. That person never worked there, didn't work there, but the company got calls and messages and threats and bad reviews online as a result. So it became a total storm.
Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line is Shapiro's call for political healing has not been heeded just yet.
We've got more news after the break. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Kidney cancer is one of the most common types of childhood cancer. The Kidney Center Association is committed to creating awareness and raising funds for research to find a cure through Chalk Your Walk. Kids, artists, and anyone with a heart for kids can raise awareness for childhood kidney cancer by chalking up their pavement with messages of hope. Find out more at chalkyourwalk.org.
Meanwhile, in another example of the national political environment seeping into our local world here, ICE stepped up its operations in Philly this week. They raided a park in South Philly, Mifflin Square Park. It's in this neighborhood where there are many immigrants. Refugees are resettled around there. And people were hanging out at the park on Monday morning. ICE rolled in, arrested 7 men. The Inquirer spoke to a guy who was not an immigrant, who said he was there drinking with his friends, as he always does. But these other guys, these immigrants, weren't drinking. They weren't doing anything wrong, according to this eyewitness. And they all got picked up. One of them had been here for more than 10 years. He had kids here. The immigrants who were arrested will likely end up at Moshannon Valley Processing Center in rural Pennsylvania. This is where most people picked up by ICE in Philly end up. It's a privately run ICE detention center. 75 men share 6 showers and 3 toilets. That's what the Inquirer reported this week. There are many more men there. It's the most crowded and biggest detention center in the Northeast. There's almost 2,000 people there. So it's bursting at the seams with people, and there's grave concerns about allegations that there's abuse by guards, inadequate medical care, violence, suicides, solitary confinement. So after this ICE operation, this is where these guys likely ended up, and then they are now on a path to deportation. So this is something we really haven't seen before. It is pretty unprecedented, an ICE raid on a park during the day.
Matt, it's really interesting because we haven't heard much from Mayor Parker about some of these incidents where Philadelphians are meeting with ICE.
Right.
And so that's pretty interesting to look at.
And there was a protest this week, immigrant activists were calling on both Josh Shapiro and Mayor Parker to be more vocal about ICE's operations and to really do as much as possible to keep our local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE.
It's such a gray area right now, I think, for politicians, too. They're not really sure where to step in. Some have in the past few months this year.
Yeah, but you can imagine.
Join along with activists.
Right. Like, let's say Mayor Parker goes on Fox News and calls Trump a fascist. Well, she probably thinks what would happen next is Trump activates the National Guard and sends them into Philly.
Right.
So
there's
there's definitely like I don't want to poke the bear situation here, but there's also people who want somebody to stick up for the most vulnerable in our communities.
Right, because they're living in fear.
Yeah. Because they can't go to the park on a Monday morning without worrying about a bunch of guys in face masks rolling in and arresting them and deporting them.
We've got more news after the break. Matt, I want to talk about a story that was actually in our Hey Philly newsletter this week, which is our daily newsletter that comes out at 6 a.m. The National Park Service, which we've been talking about this story for several months now, the National Park Service will remove several exhibits depicting slavery. So the Independence National Historic Park will alter the president's house. This is an exhibit on 6th and Market Streets, and it honors 9 people who were enslaved by George Washington. And this follows an executive order from President Trump flagging such exhibits for inappropriately disparaging Americans past or living, or corrosive ideology. There are many groups in the city who are pushing back against this executive order and this kind of change of history of events. And it's really, I think, significant because next year is the nation's semi-quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of our nation, when the whole world is going to have their eyes on Philadelphia and see that there's missing information. There's not a complete, full history of America's past. Last week, Visit Philadelphia had promised to find a new home for these exhibits about slavery. And this weekend, the Association of Philly Tour Guides will lead a free teach-in on the history of marginalized groups at 6 different independent National Historic Park sites this Saturday. And those tours begin at 1 p.m. So check that out. Head over to the Visitor Center.
And we're going to do more shows in the coming weeks about this erasing of history, pretty extraordinary stuff that's happening. And it's happening not just at Independence National Historic Park, but at other federal institutions, museums around the country.
All right, let's talk about our weekend plans.
All right.
We both were so excited that this very small bridge in Philadelphia, known as the Martin Luther King Drive Bridge, is reopening today to pedestrians.
Can't wait. And bikers.
And pedestrians and
because
bikers.
aren't we excited for different reasons? Why are you excited?
I'm excited because it's going to open to cars on Monday.
Right, which makes the drive into Center City easier, right?
Well, yeah, and then you have like a better way from getting from like northwest to Center City, or from northwest to West Philly to Center City. You have different routes.
Right. I'm excited because that was my route to get from like the Schuylkill River Trail over to Belmont Plateau, behind which I go mountain biking. And I couldn't otherwise get there. I had to go to that like intersection by the zoo where Girard is, which is like a death trap.
I hate that intersection.
And I'm like biking and there's cars every which way.
I wouldn't recommend any cyclist to go around there.
No human being should be there in any kind of vehicle, and certainly no pedestrians or cyclists. But you could go kind of through West Philly, but there's not really bike lanes. I mean, it's really, it was impossible.
Yeah.
This took 2 years. It's only 700 feet.
We're so excited, though.
I was so excited. I can't believe how long it took. But that's not the only thing opening.
What else?
The Calder Gardens are opening.
The Calder Gardens.
And we're equally as excited that this world-class artist space is opening in Philadelphia as we are about this 700-foot road that's opening.
Right.
In Philly, we celebrate the tiny victories and the big victories. So this $90 million Calder Gardens is just, it looks so magical. It is opening this weekend, but there are no tickets currently available. But what you should be doing, everybody listening should be doing, is going online and finding a ticket for the closest day you can go. So Alexander Calder, he invented the mobile. He is the third generation of legendary artists in Philly. His grandfather made William Penn on top of City Hall. This place at 21st and Ben Franklin Parkway is not a museum. It's basically this like inside gallery space coupled with this outdoor garden space. It sort of burrows underground right there at 21st and the Ben Franklin Parkway. There's 37,000 perennial plants, which will change with each season. There's sculptures that'll be regularly swapped out, but there's no labels on the sculptures. There's no thing that says like what this is called and when it was made, which is why they're saying it's not a museum, it's a gardens. They want you to sort of live and meditate in this space. So cool, so fascinating. The headline on the Inquirer's review of this, architecture critic Inga Saffron's review of the Calder Gardens, was the Parkway's luminous, magical spirit cave.
Spirit cave.
Right? I can't wait to see it.
That's awesome.
So I'm buying tickets this weekend for sometime in October because they are booked up for the coming days and weeks. Visit caldergardens.org.
I do want to mention something that is going on over in Queen Village. We're talking about parks and like access to roads and what we're excited about.
Right.
I actually never knew about this, but in Queen Village, on 6th Street and Passyunk Avenue, at this intersection, is a triangle.
Yeah.
There's so many different streets that meet up at this point. And residents this week had conversations about what to do with this particular triangle. So the Queen Village Neighbors Association and the Bella Vista Neighbors Association came together this week on Monday to discuss ideas on what to do about this intersection because they've gotten a lot of complaints from pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, that it's messy, it's complicated. So some of the ideas are to add planters, create maybe brighter crosswalks, even maybe develop a green space. I saw someone saying that.
I know this triangle. It is a somewhat of a small one. I don't know what could be done there, but they could maybe take inspiration from something that the Graduate Hospital neighborhood did through the South of South Neighborhood Association at South and 23rd Street. There's this triangle there. It's a little bit bigger than the one that you're talking about, but it is a weird intersection, caused confusion for drivers, dangerous for pedestrians. And what they did was they ended up closing off one little piece of the street, and they beautified the little area. They added chairs around this old, like century-old horse fountain that's still there. And now it is a centerpiece of the neighborhood. There's a froyo place there called Igloo that people get their snacks and hang out and sit there. People have lunch there. There's movie nights there. They have events and music in the warm summer months over there with people playing live music. There's a bar. There's also some outdoor seating in front of that. There's a new cafe. So if they're able to both make it safer and make it a place where people can hang out, it can become a centerpiece for the community. It is though small, and they would have to be pretty creative. But you could do amazing things with like planters and a couple seats.
Yeah. What else you doing this weekend?
Gonna watch the Eagles beat the Rams.
Of course.
Sunday, 1:00. Go Birds.
Go Birds. And I'm going to also be watching some football. My son got an interception last Saturday.
Nice.
I know.
Did he return it for a touchdown?
30-yard run.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I feel like I was like a mini celebrity. I'm the mom of this like cool kid.
Oh, man, I can't wait till you're on ESPN when he's playing for the Eagles in 10 years.
Or I'm getting like a Campbell soup commercial. Well, he likes grilled cheese, so maybe like I can work with a cheese company or something.
For newcomers to Philadelphia, that's a reference to the fact that former Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb did these Campbell soup commercials with his mom for many years. Hilarious. I would love to see you in a soup commercial.
Yes.
And I would love to see your son in the NFL playing for the Birds.
Heck yeah.
We really could probably use another cornerback if he's available for the Eagles later this season.
Hit him up in like 2035.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. He'll be there. Matt, thanks for chatting with me this week on CityCast Philly.
Thanks, Trenae.
That's all for us here today on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz. Our producers are Abby Fritz and Elizabeth Kama. Our Hey Philly newsletter editor is Yanni Colon, and our host is me, Trenae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from all the Komodos. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. And if you want to become a CityCast Philly neighbor, you can head over to membership.citycast.fm. You get great perks and member-only exclusives. All right, we will talk to y'all on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye.